The Honourable Speaker, sir, the Honourable Prime Minister, Honourable Cabinet Ministers and Assistant Ministers, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition, and Honourable Members of Parliament. I rise to respond to the address delivered by His Excellency the President at the opening of the 2026-2027 session of Parliament. I begin by expressing gratitude for His Excellency's leadership and clear national direction outlined in his address, which provides an important framework for this government, particularly in advancing rural and maritime development and strengthening disaster risk management across Fiji. Honourable Speaker, sir, His Excellency reminded us that unity must translate into equitable development outcomes. This is particularly relevant when we consider that 44.1% of Fiji's population reside in the rural areas. That means nearly half of our citizens live outside major urban centers in villages, settlement, outer islands, and interior communities. Mr. Speaker, sir, when we speak about inclusive growth, national resilience, and equitable opportunity, we are speaking about policies that must work for nearly half of our people. These statistics alone highlights why rural and maritime development cannot remain peripheral to national planning. It must be central. Mr. Speaker, sir, His Excellency noted in his address outlines the government's legislative priorities and policy direction. In alignment with this, the Ministry of Rural and Maritime Development and Disaster Risk Management continues to prioritize policies that promote equitable and sustainable growth, resilience, and inclusion. We recognize that rural and maritime communities, often the backbone of our agriculture and marine economies, must be integrated into national development strategy if Fiji is to achieve sustainable and inclusive progress. Mr. Speaker, sir, His Excellency the President reaffirmed the sovereignty of our people and celebrated the diversity of our nation, emphasizing unity as a shared purpose for our rural and maritime communities. This unity must translate into equal access of opportunities, essential services, infrastructure, and economic participation. Our policies are advancing this by ensuring community voices help shape decisions about their future, reinforcing the message that national development must include every Fijian, regardless of their location. Mr. Speaker, sir, in this spirit, I am delighted to inform this august House the Ministry has adopted a co-creation approach to develop Fiji's first ever National Rural Development Policy, NRDP, following a series of 8 national multi-stakeholder consultations across 4 divisions and bilateral consultation. The Ministry has been able to consult close to 1,000 rural organizations, rural stakeholders, including community representatives, civil society organizations, non-government and faith-based organizations, youth, women groups, and government agencies, to name a few. Mr. Speaker, sir, His Excellency's reflection on the national journey and reminder that development must be fair and inclusive emphasizes that the core of our Ministry's mandate, as noted by His Excellency the President, the Household Income and Expenditure Survey highlights persistent hardship among low-income families, including many in the rural and maritime areas. To address this, the Ministry is advancing systematic policy reforms that remove barriers to opportunity and ensure that rural households are not left behind. This includes a deliberate focus on infrastructure, access to market, and social support system tailored to isolated communities. Mr. Speaker, sir, in response to His Excellency's call for inclusive and evidence-based policy, I am once again delighted to inform this august House about the work spearheaded by the Ministry in leading the development of Fiji's first ever National Rural Development Policy as part of the Change Management Program. This policy represents a historic shift in how rural and maritime development is planned and implemented. It has been shaped through extensive consultation with community leaders, district and provincial officials, civil society, and development partners. The policy will strengthen rural livelihoods and reduce poverty, enhance connectivity through improved rural roads, bridges, jetties, and maritime access, support climate-smart agriculture and fisheries, improve access to affordable finance, markets for rural enterprises, and integrate disaster risk management and community resilience planning. Mr. Speaker, sir, this comprehensive framework ensures that rural and maritime development is not treated as an afterthought, but integrated into a national development planning and priority setting, fulfilling the vision articulated by His Excellency for fair and inclusive growth. Mr. Speaker, sir, I applaud the plan to review the Constitution, as this is the opportunity to address the challenges that our ministry encountered in implementing the integrated rural development framework. This review is timely for the ministry as well as we progress with the development of our national rural development policy. It is imperative that the enabling framework in the form of national legislation, including the supreme law of the land, will support rather than be a hindrance to an integrated and coordinated planning platform for our rural people. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, sir, I welcome the plan to pursue the integrated review of the Native Land Administration and the Itauke Institution, as this will augur well and timely on the co-creation of the National Rural Development Policy. Mr. Speaker, sir, His Excellency the President highlighted the expansion of transport, energy, and communication infrastructure over our national journey. In the rural and maritime Fiji, infrastructure remains a key enabler of economic and social well-being. Under the National Rural Development Policy and related programs, the Ministry is coordinating investments to construct and maintain rural access roads and bridges to reduce isolation, upgrade community jetties to support maritime transport and commerce, improve access to water, energy, and digital connectivity, support community-led infrastructure projects that create local jobs. These investments strengthen linkages between isolated communities and urban centers, facilitating access to healthcare, education, markets, and services. Mr. Speaker, sir, His Excellency emphasized that unity must be concisely built through fair laws and inclusive policy. In rural and maritime development, this means embedding inclusion and gender equity throughout policy design and implementation. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Ministry supports targeted programs to empower women, youth, and vulnerable groups through skills training, entrepreneurship support, and access to finance, recognizing that community resilience is strengthened when all citizens can participate meaningfully in development. Mr. Speaker, sir, His Excellency the President comment on the importance of evidence-based public discourse and responsible leadership are essential, especially as we approach an election year. The Ministry commits to contributing constructively to national dialogue, ensuring that the communication and engagement with stakeholders in rural and maritime areas are grounded in facts, respect, and shared purpose. Mr. Speaker, sir, His Excellency noted global economic, environmental, and geopolitical challenges that test the resilience of small island developing states like Fiji. In response, our Ministry prioritizes disaster risk reduction and climate resilience as integral parts of development planning. Mr. Speaker, sir, we are strengthening community awareness and preparedness, improving early warning systems, and enhancing evacuation infrastructure across coastal and inland communities. These efforts align with His Excellency's emphasis on resilience and sustainability. Mr. Speaker, sir, we work closely with the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change to support vulnerable communities requiring adaptation measures, alongside implementing the UNDP Governance for Resilience project on risk-informed development. Planned relocation of community falls within our ambit. Notably, works in Nambavatu in Maduata are progressing very well according to a schedule. The Ministry is also providing technical guidance to the villages of Narata in Nanrua and Vuninunrovu in Netasir in undertaking partial relocation with funding they have received from the Community Climate Adaptation Fund of the Global Center for Climate Mobility. Mr. Speaker, sir, His Excellency the President reiterated that rural, interior and maritime areas must be brought into the mainstream of national development planning, rather than being treated as peripheral projects. The Ministry agrees wholeheartedly and has embedded this principle in the formulation of its National Rural Development Policy and related programs. Mr. Speaker, sir, our approach ensures that rural and maritime priorities are considered across sectors: economic, social, environmental, and disaster management, and that decision-making reflects the lived realities of communities outside urban centers. Mr. Speaker, sir, His Excellency highlighted agriculture and fisheries as central to economic transformation. This aligns with the Ministry's focus on supporting climate-smart agriculture, value chain development, fisheries management, market facilitation for rural and maritime communities. These sectors are critical for food security, income generation, and resilient livelihoods. I look forward to the outcome of the feasibility study for the new shipbuilding facility. This is an infrastructure that is important to our maritime travelers and communities. We continue to buy ships from abroad to service our islands. We must not forget that there are talented people in the country who are already involved in this industry. We have seen the increasing interest in our young people and from the Pacific region to be trained and qualified mariners and seafarers from the courses offered by the National University. Mr. Speaker, sir, His Excellency the President spoke on of the defining challenge of climate change. For our portfolios, this highlights the need to strengthen preparedness, response, and recovery system in rural and maritime areas. Mr. Speaker, sir, we are enhancing collaboration with subnational administrations and community stakeholders to ensure that early action plans, evacuation facilities, and community training are in place, ensuring that rural communities are equipped to stand and recover from disasters. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Ministry convened the first National Disaster Risk Management Council meeting since its enactment of the National Disaster Risk Management Act 2024. The Council deliberated and approved the following disaster risk management initiatives. 1. National Guideline for constructing and retrofitting evacuation centers. The guideline is to provide structural and humanitarian standards in evacuation centers, as these are critical facilities that will ensure the protection of evacuees during disaster. 2. In addition, the Council has approved the revised anticipatory action framework, which will provide faster and more efficient response to disaster and help affected communities to better prepare for and recover from emergencies. And finally, the Council has also approved the project of enhancing multi-hazard early warning capabilities in Fiji. It will ensure that warnings are effectively disseminated and reaches the most far and vulnerable of our communities. Mr. Speaker, sir, we've been fortunate over the last few years that the good Lord has seen fit to spare our country from major disasters. With that said, Tropical Cyclone Urmil has left the Western Division, reeling from impacts of heavy rainfall and flooding. And the Ministry is working closely with stakeholders to ensure that affected communities are assisted with relief and quick return to normalcy. Last week, the team was at NDMO, were moving around the evacuation centers in the Western Division, delivering non-food items, and also food items will be delivered once the report by NDMO comes out. Also thank the Honorable Prime Minister, who also held a briefing with the officials in the Western Division on the update of post TC Urmil, or the flooding that were in the Western Division. Just before I move into my conclusions, just want to respond to the Honorable Pramila Kumar and some of her comments this morning. She, at her conclusion, said that the people in the rural communities, in villages, in settlement, should judge this government by its performance. We've been moving around the country, the Northern Division, Western Division, even in the Eastern Division. The support on the ground, supporting the government, has been overwhelming. And they are really happy on the development that government is bringing to them. Access road, farm road, solar freezers, and all this that have helped our rural and maritime communities. And they are really happy. Last week I was in Ngau, and they've told me, just tell our message to the Honorable Prime Minister that his government should run for another 3 terms. And they don't follow all the things that are coming out on social media posted by keyboard warriors. What they see is real action that's on ground. The assistance by the Ministry of Agriculture and all other ministries, boreholes by the Ministry of Lands, and these are the real impacts that people are feeling on the ground. And I don't know which part of the 2 group the Honorable Pramila Kumar is joining. Now we have a registered political party, which is the People's First Party, that will be led by the Honorable Leader of the Opposition. But again, she's trying to use the credits or the achievements by the previous Fiji First government to ride along on probably their campaign. But campaign is too far away. It's time for government to continue delivering the work that needs to be delivered, and people are thanking government on the service delivery that is coming to them on time. And I hope that the opposition will also join us, especially in some of the things of national interest. I thank the Honorable Leader of the Opposition this morning, who also acknowledged the process of the constitutional review. I thank the current Standing Committee on Justice, Law and Human Rights for taking around the referendum bill, and have been following some of the committee meetings. I thank the opposition members for allowing that pathway, for supporting that. Mr. Speaker, sir, in conclusion, His Excellency the President's address represents a vision for a confident, inclusive and resilient Fiji. The Ministry of Rural and Maritime Development and Disaster Management stand fully committed to translating this vision into tangible outcomes. Mr. Speaker, sir, we will continue to implement inclusive policies, strengthen community resilience, support sustained economic participation, and advocate for rural and maritime priorities to be integral elements of national development. By aligning our efforts with the aspirations articulated by His Excellency, we reaffirm our commitment to leave no Fijian behind, from the highlands to the coastlines, from rural villages and settlements to our outer islands. Now, sir.